Hello, everyone. It's Aunt the Astro Chick, and I wanted to talk about what's happening. Tomorrow is the great conjunction between Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. It's like a wham bam. This is it. Like, we're now in the year of the fire horse. We are building momentum towards this year. It's in Aries year one. We have a lot of indicators that it's going to get real fast real soon, and there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. We feel like a lot's been going on because it has, but it seems like we are in this time of acceleration. Okay, so buckle up. I think it's exciting. I'm a fire dominant though. Okay, and even though I have a Cancer moon, so I do worry about things, of course, and it's in the 8th house. So I always think worst case scenarios, but it is important to stay positive and to promote the changes, because change is coming, baby, right? The destruction process is not over with. If anything, this is the momentum to really start tearing down the things that are rotten, and we can see that in small ways. There was a quote by Ernest Hemingway. Someone quoted it today in the news, but I thought it was very fitting for this great transition that we've been going through since even before 2020. But 2020 was kind of like a really hot spot. It popped off a lot of energy. There were multiple great conjunctions between planets, and also we had 6 eclipses that year. So there was a lot of beginning, like ending, beginning. It was like a very catalytic type of year, as we all know. But where we are now in this timeline is interesting. And I wanted to talk about where we are in the timeline, especially the great conjunction that occurs tomorrow. It's going to hit us. I live Eastern Standard Time, so it's going to be around noon. It's like 11:53, something like that. So about noon tomorrow is when that new cycle will begin officially, right? Because they met with each other last year. They both had come in. They didn't meet. They didn't almost meet. When you see somebody from across the room and you're like, I want to go say hi, and you don't, and then you end up going separate ways, but then you come back to each other. That's kind of like what Saturn and Neptune have been doing with, dipping into Aries last year and then going in their retrograde cycles and kind of, not catching up to each other. It's been kind of like a long gonna meet. I'll just tell you that, because so many people talk about this, like astrologers, but also I can see it socially. We see it in what's going on in the world. And I think it's a wonderful energy, like any renewal energy, because this is not just the end of a cycle. It's also the beginning of a new cycle. So, that's the part of life that we are trying to embrace and have more awakening of, is that some things end so that better things can begin. And sometimes we must destroy and let go of things in order to propel ourselves and to ascend and to progress in life. So this is like one of those times, guys. And I had done a video about all of those cycles that occurred in 2020. You can see I've written them down here, because this is an important thing to kind of look at as a whole, is that we've had all of this transition, not just in 2020, but we also had a new Venus star point come into life with the Libra star point that began in 2022. And this fall, we will have the last Scorpio retrograde Venus Kazemi, which is the star point. Star point is a term that's been coined by an astrologer named Ariel Gutman. She has a book on the Venus star point called Venus Star Rising, A New Cosmology for the 21st Century. It's a great book. It explains her concept of a star point, but a Venus star point is when the Sun and Venus come together in a conjunction. And this happens every 9 months, once in a direct motion and 9 months then in a retrograde motion. So she has these dualistic direct and retrograde cycles that meet with the sun, and then the points where she meets with the sun, they create over 8 years, they create a 5-pointed star in the sky. So that is like her power symbolism, right? The 5-pointed star, and one of her mystery numbers. Anyway, I'm not going to get too in detail with Venus, but so that happens, right? And we are this fall going to finish up that Scorpio Kazemi star point, whatever you want to call it, right? So endings, more endings, right? And I've talked a lot about the progressed moon of the United States, and that the new moon hit in 2024 during the Great North American total solar eclipse that millions of people saw in America. And that was in a series of, we had one a couple years before that Americans also saw. And then the crisscross was like St. Louis, I think, or something. But anyway, the cycle that was not just ecliptic in the sign of Aries, which is the fifth house of America, but it also, and Aries is a huge energy this year. So I think that like some of the rumblings of that Aries total solar eclipse are still abound, because during that eclipse it occurred at 20 degrees of Aries. So sun and the moon, because that is a solar eclipse, the sun and the moon are together, and it occurred with Chiron. So Chiron was there at 20 degrees with the sun and the moon when that eclipse that we all witnessed happened, right? And not only did it occur there at that 20 degrees of Aries, but that is the degree of America's Chiron. And Chiron is not a body that not everyone talks about it, but my younger students do. And, Chiron is the wounded healer. And if America is an Aries Chiron, it is so true. Like Aries Chiron, it explains a lot. It explains a lot. And also the fact that the fifth house is the house of children. And we are just appalled and horrified by learning what the powerful, how they hurt our kids. Okay. And like, what a powerful time to be in this Chiron return. Now, America had, the Chiron in America's chart is 20, and Chiron will not come back to 20. It's at the end of Aries, soon to ingress out of Aries, but it's been there for 9 years. Okay. So like even on a Chiron level, there's been this transition. Aries and Pisces are the longest transits of Chiron. And so poor Gen X, right? Anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent about this, but that eclipse was very Chiron influenced, very Chiron oriented, very American Chiron return oriented too. So all of this pain that is going to resurface and all this healing that we're trying to do, because it's so disturbing, right? Like we understand like things cannot go on the way that they are. Like things have to change, and they will, because all of us, or many of us, more of us than them, know that we are not going to let this shit stand. So lots of transformative energy coming into manifestation this year. It's exciting. Okay. So let's see. That was that about the solar eclipse. So keep these things in mind, right? Also the fact that America's new moon right now, currently in the sky, is at 18 degrees of Aries, which is in conjunction with Chiron. It's in conjunction with America's progressed and natal Chiron. Got it? Also with the eclipse point. So in 2 months, you guys, because the moon through progression moves about 1 degree per month. Okay. And so if it's at 18, then in 2 months it will be at 20. And 20 Aries is that very sensitive place where we had the solar eclipse, the American solar eclipse. We had the Chiron return for America. So it's just interesting, this energy that's like culminating. And internally for Americans, everyday Americans, because the moon in the chart of a country, that's the people. That's we the people. Okay. We have a natal Aquarius moon as Americans, but that is also where the solar eclipse that just happened a couple days ago, that's where that hit. Okay. So the solar eclipse is disruptive. jarring. We've all been disrupted and jarred. And the moon in America's chart there, you could see, is in the third house, which is our everyday lives. Okay. Our everyday lives are becoming more uncomfortable and harder to maintain because of the systems that are corrupted. Okay. And I think most people are awakening to it. It's like, it's a time of uprising historically. Okay. If you look at the cycles of planets and the cycle of history and the cycle of society, there are a couple different books I could suggest to you. So, Cosmos and Psyche by Richard Tarnas is a great book, and it talks about all of the cycles of the outer planets and the context of society and history, right? Great book. And then in tandem, you should also read The Fourth Turning is Here. The Fourth Turning is Now. I can never remember what it is, but I think it's The Fourth Turning is Here. And that's from Neil Howe. It's a second version of a book he also wrote back in the 90s about the fourth turning, which is a political science idea about how every 4 generations there's a destructive element to society that rebuilds and restructures it, right? And so we are in that moment. And I think that lasts through, like, he was talking about like 2030. I'm thinking, oh God, it's been a long 2020s, right? Like this decade, it's gone fast, but it's also been very arduous. So it feels like it's just been dragging on, but at the same time, everything has changed so much, right? There's a quote from Ernest Hemingway, and it was gradually and then suddenly, right? And that's exactly the vibe of the Great Transition. And so we can see through many different, spaces, not just astrology, but also through history, right? That we are converging on a time of change. And, everything points to the whole world changing because, this particular Saturn Neptune conjunction occurs on the world axis point. Cardinal points. The world axis points are cardinal signs, right? 0 Aries is the beginning of everything. It's the beginning of the zodiac. It's the beginning of the year. It is the young, fresh, inexperienced, headstrong fire element of that thrusting spring nature. It is the East. It is the initiator. It is the warrior. It is the pioneer, right? Very exciting types of energy. I resonate with Aries energy. I have Aries, Mars, and Jupiter in conjunction. And my children have a lot of Aries, and so does my husband. So like Aries is a wonderful, well, my brothers too. Like I have a lot of Aries in my family, okay? And so I'm excited about this energy because it is a renewal type of energy. Think of spring, right? It's that excitement for what is to come. And it's also, a little nervous. Things are chaotic, but you guys, change is good. It's totally necessary. We have so many things we need to change, and we're gonna do it, And so another interesting thing I wanted to talk about, tomorrow is going to be the big shebang. And we've already had some stuff go down in the news that kind of qualified the solar eclipse energy, right? And remember, eclipse energy lasts for a while, like a 6-month period of time. So whatever has begun with this energy, it will continue on, and we'll have to mitigate, whatever disruptions come from that energy. So look at Aquarius, the house of Aquarius, where that falls for you. Do you have any planets in spectral relationships with that house? For America, it's our moon, right? Our moon. And then we also have, let me think, the connection between our moon, Mars, and Venus in the chart of America. There's a lot of energy with cardinal energy when it comes to America. We have a natal Saturn in the sign of Libra, where our progressed Mars is in retrograde on that point or close to that point. That energy is opposing that moon Chiron progressed energy in Aries. Okay, so we have this dichotomy between that masculine, feminine type of energy. And we have the malefics in America's natal and progress chart in the 11th house. Like, we are nobody's friend right now. But also we have internal fighting, right? We have this internal frustration with each other because of the whole us versus them shit that they set up for us that gets us to ignore the real problems. It's like, let's stop fighting about identity, right? Politics, who's a Republican, who's a Democrat. It's not about that. It's about who is human and who is not. Like, billionaires have no grasp on real life, and they treat us like cattle. So, like, we all know the problems that are going on in the world right now. I'm not going to get into that stuff in this video. This is more about, like, seeing that we are on the threshold of change, seeing that we are in this great transition still. And I know I put 2020 to 2026. It's more like 2020 to 2030, and we are, this year, we will have all of the outer planets in new signs, right? After Uranus comes into Gemini at the end of April, all of the outer planets, which outer planets are transpersonal or social planets. And so this will affect huge swaths of us, right? It's going to affect the world. We have a new cycle between Saturn and Neptune occurring on a world access point. So, like, this energy is going to be accessed by the whole world, right? And so, kind of scary, kind of exciting. We also have to remember that as we go through this transition, when cycles begin, they go through phases of their cycles, right? And so we've had, with Jupiter and Pluto specifically, Jupiter and Pluto came together in July of 2020. That began their cycle. It's a 12 to 13 year cycle. So 6 years into it, which is now, we have the opposition. So Jupiter has moved to face Pluto, right? And this is very important because it'll be in the sign of Leo. Pluto will be in the sign of Aquarius. And we will have these powerful urges to continue to grow, but also while transforming and changing what is going on around us. Jupiter opposite Pluto is also like an understanding or an enlightenment when it comes to power, or when it comes to hidden things, like hidden power, and all the gross shit that billionaires do, and how removed they are from humanity in so many ways, and how to balance that. Remember, an opposition is perspective. We're trying to gain perspective, and we're trying to confront whatever necessary changes need to be made, because change is healthy. It's good. Sometimes you have to till the land, right? And I think that we know what needs to be done, you guys. It's just a matter of organizing and making it happen. So this energy that's coming in July, like July 20th, it will be kind of a stimulating, right? Because the hard aspects are stimulating in a lot of ways. Oppositions stimulate us because we have to confront things, and we have to face things, and then we have to find understanding to make the changes necessary. So it'll be interesting to see as a society how we do that. And especially with all the momentum we have this year, being a fire horse year, the fact that this is an Aries 1 year, we have a lot of momentum, a lot of fire energy that we can work with, and finding our voices and speaking to the things that matter. I think that people are going to turn away from some of the artifice of when it comes to, like, content creators. And I don't know, it feels like, yeah, some people will stay sleeping and they don't want to awaken, right? But I think that, like Ernest Hemingway says, like, gradually and then suddenly. I think that we all have epiphanies, especially with so much change and momentum in our daily lives. Like, when people's lives, their daily lives, their personal lives are, like, just disrupted and changed, then we have to recognize what's going on in society. If society's problems are coming into our homes, like, yeah, then it's time. It's past time to act. Anyway, so we have all of these new cycles. We have Saturn and Neptune tomorrow, like, exciting, you guys. I can't wait. And then Uranus coming into Gemini completely in April of this year. And then America is going to have an Uranus return next year. So it begins in July of 27 and it ends in May of 28. So the whole time that Uranus is in that first decan of Gemini, it's probably going to be felt, right? But we already see what this is, all right? We see that this is possibly war. And what's fascinating is that every time that Uranus has come back into Gemini and returned in the chart of America, it's been a time of war. And in the chart of America, you can see that Uranus in the natal chart is close to Mars. So America has Mars in that seventh house, That's why we're aggressive and we're always fighting. And it's like endless wars with America, And I thought that we weren't supposed to be doing that anymore, I thought that we were going to, well, they lie. So we got to stop listening to their lies and we got to stop trusting that they're going to do the right thing because they're not. We have to force change. Power does not concede, right? It was Frederick Douglass who said that. Power is not going to concede to us. We have to force it, okay? And whatever that looks like to you, it could be your voice, it could be your compassion, it could be your movement, it could be your organization. There are different things we can do to help the change come and for the right kinds of changes to be created, okay? So, yeah, there's that. I don't want to make this too long. We talk about all of this in class. I have Planet T on Saturdays, every other Saturday at 6 p.m. And we do talk about the astrology of America, especially because it's so hot right now. But I just wanted to wish you all well. See this as a time of renewal, and you'll keep a positive I try to have a positive outlook that change is necessary and good, and it will renew us and it will make us better than we've ever been before. But we got to stick to it and we got to get doing stuff. So I wish you all well. Have a wonderful Friday tomorrow, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye.